Hey guys, it's Michaela, and as you can see, I obviously don't have Kayla with me, and this is also a video that is not comedic like Kayla and I's vlog from today, and I had the idea to make a kind of PSA, I guess, not really, but kind of informational video about JME. JME is Juvenile Myoclonic Epilepsy. Like the beginning of this year or so, I was diagnosed with it. So, what exactly is JME? JME, juveniles aging from 12 to 18, and in my case, 15. They are affected by 3 different types of seizures, which are myoclonic seizures, which are muscle spasms in the upper body, and there are also tonic-clonic seizures, which are the most known type of seizures. So the full-on muscle spasm in like legs and arms, and we also black out and have no memory of it, and we don't. For me, I could remember like right before it, and after it was super foggy. And there are also absent seizures, which are, for example, if you kind of like zone off and just stare at this one spot, like your vision goes out of focus, that is considered a seizure. JME controlled by medication. Seizures with JME are typically triggered by sleep deprivation, stress, for those who consume alcohol, which isn't very smart. For those who have photosensitive epilepsy that comes along with JME, sometimes seizures can be triggered by flashing lights. And there are other ways seizures can be triggered, but these are the most common, especially sleep deprivation and stress and alcohol intake, but those who are juveniles shouldn't be drinking, but you get my point. Anyways, JME, or epilepsy, is diagnosed through having an EEG done by a neurologist. An EEG is where they attach the little doohickeys around your head that have wires going, there's a bunch of them, which measure your brain waves or electric waves in your brain. For those with JME, usually your like waves for like those without are like kind of normal, but with those with JME, you'll have big spikes randomly, and that's your brain kind of sometimes could be on the brink of having a seizure. So that's how they are diagnosed. Look, we have a visitor. This is Ella. Before I had my seizures, I had noticed that I was having like muscle spasms. So I had ended up looking up kind of like what muscle spasms were and why I hadn't had them, but it didn't really give me any information. So I just kind of thought nothing of it. Like the one time I had woken up to eat breakfast, and I had gotten a glass of milk, and I went to go sit down in the chair, and all of a sudden I lost control of my arm, and oh gosh, I was sitting in math class the one time my freshman year, and I was using a calculator, and all of a sudden I lost control of my hand again, and the calculator went flying, and everyone was like, "Michaela, what just happened?" And I'm like, I had a muscle spasm. They usually happen in the morning. And once again, I thought nothing of it. And these weren't the only times. It was happening pretty frequently. I had thought nothing of it until later on I had my first seizure. freaked my parents out. I was playing a video game, and all of a sudden I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm losing control of my hands, and I can remember slowly blacking out, and my hands are, no, I was losing control of my hand, like, when I was having my seizure, what I didn't know when I was blacking out, I was losing control of my hands, and they were just slowly going up, and I went back into the chair, apparently, and I started having a tonic-clonic seizure, which I mentioned before. And this was the first out of the 4 seizures I had. They all were somewhat the same, except my 4th seizure. The one time it was one of the last seizures I had a seizure in the shower. What was different about it was I didn't have any signs that I was starting to have one. With the other seizures, I was kind of aware what was going on, my hands were lifting up, and I ended up blacking out. But with this one, I was in the shower, I just completely blacked out, and I fell, and I ended up hitting my head. Had forgotten to take my medication that day. My neurologist ended up increasing my dosage because he realized that I was basically like on the edge. If I didn't take it, I was gonna end up having a seizure. I was gonna have a seizure, so he ended up increasing it so that I took 3 in the morning and 3 at night. Which typically that dosage is kind of like a medium for adults, like a medium level dosage, kind of like right in the middle, so pretty decent. It wasn't like I'm overloaded with medications. When I hit my head, I had a headache for like a week, so it was like a concussion. I've never had a concussion, so I don't really exactly know. And we went to the hospital, like the ER, that night, and they didn't exactly do anything because at like ERs they can't really do anything for like seizures because it's in the brain. I mean, they can't really do anything. Life with seizures is, for me, not really life impacting. Really, all I have to do is just make sure I get enough sleep and take my medication and not stress too much, but that's kind of hard for me to do because I stress about school a lot, but that's just me. It's just kind of like a little bump in the road, but with my brain it's a big bump. But whenever I mention that I have epilepsy, everyone kind of freaks out and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, but I'm like, it's okay. It's not really something to be sorry about. There is an exception though. If someone has a seizure longer than 60 minutes, an hour, that will affect their brain because their brain will not really like that, so my neurologist told me. But other than that, we don't really have too much to worry about other than like hitting our heads and taking our medication and getting the sleep we need. Jamie, it's not something that's going to really affect me too much, I should say. I mean, it affects me, but the only ways it really affects me is it pushes back my ability to drive, which is fine. I'm not in a rush to get that. It's not something that I'm like, oh, I can't drive, man. No, I'm gonna have it. For those who are saying this, there's no need for you to be sorry for me. Like, I appreciate it, I really do. But it's not something I mean, like, it's a big deal, but something that's, I don't know how to word it, but it's not something like super crazy. I could have been affected with worse. Something I can get under control. It's something I can move through life just fine once it's under control. And so far it is. So we're making good progress, and hopefully that continues. Sorry, this video was not a comedic video like this account was supposed to be, but I thought it was a good idea to kind of put the information out there because I know so many of the people that know me. I kind of explain, but usually it's pretty briefly. and not too well. This was probably not too well, but I did my best to try and explain. So I hope this video was beneficial to you. I hope we're more aware of kind of what I have, what JME is, kind of like a brief summary of what it is. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Peace out, brother.